Okay, we are starting Unit 3. We're just cruising right through our math binder. Starting Unit 3. I can enjoy CO13. I can interpret and write numeric and algebraic expressions. So we're going to take things that we have been learning and we're going to start putting it in. This first objective, a lot of times when we have the beginning of units, they're more of a review. And you're going to say, oh, this isn't so challenging. Oh, I can just do mental math. Oh, this isn't a problem. It's going to build on itself. So I don't want us working ahead, but I want us listening. But this objective isn't going to be an overwhelming one, but we will be building on it as we go through this objective. So let's look at what all these terms mean. So if we're interpreting and writing numeric and algebraic expressions, what is an expression? An expression is a mathematical statement. It's not an equation. A mathematical expression will not have an equal sign. Okay? So no equal sign, it's not an equation. What is a variable? A variable is a symbol. We use letters used to represent used to represent an unknown value. So we use that letter when we don't know what the number is. So a lot of times we've always had math as numbers. Now it's numbers and letters. So the trick is to know what words and phrases mean mathematically. So if we're given words, we know what operation to put into our expression. So this is going to be an important table that we're going to want to put on what? Claire, your help sheet. Okay, we can't put examples, but we can put stuff like tables that we fill in. So we know exactly what these words are telling us to do. So, words that mean addition. Can anybody think of what? Sum. Find the sum of these two numbers. We know we're going to be adding. What's another term that means addition? Alan? Plus. Plus. Anybody think of another one? Vivi? Add. Kind of in the name. It's implied. One more. Vivi? That goes with the add. LJ? Usually we would say adding together. I'm going to write the word total. What is the total of 3 and 5? When we're finding the total, it means we have to add them together. Okay, find the sum, find the total. It all means adding. Let's look at subtraction. Instead of finding the sum, what do we find in subtraction? The difference. So if we're finding the difference, we know we are subtracting. Okay? Less than. Christina. Yeah, so instead of just putting subtract, I'm going to say subtracted from. and subtracted by. Now these mean two different things. When we add 3 plus 5, 5 plus 3, doesn't matter which way we go, we get 8 for our answer, right? But when we subtract 5 minus 3 and 3 minus 5, do we get the same answer? No, it makes a difference because we're working with those negative numbers now. 5 minus 3 is 2, but 3 minus 5 is negative 2. So it really matters which number we put first and which number we put second. So we're going to really look at subtracted from and subtracted by. 5 subtracted from 3 means we start with 3 and we're taking 5 away. Subtracted by, 5 subtracted by 3, we have 5 minus 3. So we really have to pay attention and stop and think about which direction we're going. Eleanor?
Isn't minus also one?
Minus would also be 1, yes. We just ran out of room with our boxes and I wanted to really talk about that. Same thing with that less than. 5 less than 3. So if we have 5 less than 3, we're starting at that 3. And we're taking 5 less than it. We're subtracting the 5 away. So you really have to think if we're doing less than or subtracted from, what is it telling us to do? Those are the ones that kind of flip how we think it's going to be. I'm putting little bullets next to those for a reason, because those are the ones to watch out for. When we see less than and subtracted from, we have to stop and think which one goes where. Multiplication. So we have addition is the sum, subtraction is the difference. What do we call it for multiplication? Do you know, Tessa? Christina? Times is one way to say multiplication. What do we call that final answer with multiplication, Natalie? The product. When we're looking for the product of two numbers, that is the answer for when we multiply. We can also call it groups of. I have 5 groups of 3. How many do I have altogether? 15, because I multiply them. 5 groups of 3. 5 times 3. When we see the word of, 5 groups of 3. We know we are multiplying because we have that word of in there. Of means to multiply. Adding is the sum, subtraction is the difference, multiplication is the product. What do we call the answer in a division problem? Claire?
Factor.
When we find the factors and stuff, we are dividing down. That's not what we call the answer when we do our division product. Do you know, Amala? The quotient. If we need to find the quotient of two numbers, we need to divide them. Another thing, with multiplication we say groups of, with division, into groups. Into groups of. So if I have 48 put into groups of 6, how many would be in each group? We're dividing it down. So when we're going into the groups, we're dividing down. But if we have so many groups of something, we're multiplying it up. So they sound similar, but they mean opposite things. Okay? This table is important for us to have filled out completely and put on our help sheets. Okay? Because these words come back on the test, and we're at the very beginning of the unit. By the time it's time to take the test, that's after our VA, that's after we have our vacations and staycations, and we forget. So when it comes time to the homework sheet, I highly recommend we put this table onto it. So, be careful with subtraction. Unlike addition, the order of your expression matters. So remember, when I was talking about that less than and subtracted from, really think about what it's telling us to do. If the order of operations dictates that a part of the expression is done first, your verbal phrase needs to reflect that. Commas work well. So we're going to see what that means, because it's not always going to be easy peasy doing one operation. If we have to do multiple operations, we need to be able to know which operation to do first. So I am going to scroll up. Our directions are: write the verbal phrase as an expression, no equal signs, or write the expression as a verbal phrase. So let's see what that means. Let's look at that very first one. The sum of 9 and 7. What would that expression look like? Hadley? 9 plus 7. Easy peasy. Do I want you to solve it? No. It doesn't say evaluate. It doesn't say write an equation. Equations have the equal sign. An expression is just that. We're just putting in the expression. Let's look at a more complicated one. Let's look down. Interesting. What does your page look like? My page is looking different than this. Do you have a second page? Okay, I do not have a second page. That's what's in it. So let's look at the sum of 11 and a number divided by 17. What do you think that is going to look like? Graham?
11 plus 7 divided by 17.
So we know the sum of 11 and a number divided by 17. Think about our order of operations. What is going to happen first if this is how I wrote my expression? What am I going to do first, Hadley? I'm going to do that division first. I'm going to do a number divided by 17, and then I'm going to add 11 to it. Uh-oh. Is that what it was telling me to do? Did it tell me to take a number divided by 17? How do I make my expression do exactly what that verbal phrase was telling me? What do you think, Tessa?
Parentheses.
Where would I put the parentheses?
I don't know.
I want to add that 11 plus n first. So I'm going to put parentheses around it, because that's what I'm doing first. Does that make sense? So you really have to pay attention to those commas and see what are the steps I need to go back and think about that order of operations from our last test. Am I doing it correctly? So if we look at the second page, write the verbal phrase as an expression or write the expression as a verbal phrase. On that front, it was all verbal phrases that we're writing our expressions with. Back here, now we have to write it as a verbal phrase. So if I have the x and that fraction bar and a 6, what is that telling me to do? Christina, you put your hand, do you want to take a shot at it? So we know x stands for number, so we're going to put a number in for that variable. What does that fraction bar, what operation is that fraction bar telling us to do? Fallon? Division. So what, now that I know for x I'll put a number, For the fraction bar, I know the operation is division. What do you think I could put for a verbal phrase? Give it a shot, Eleanor.
A number divided by 6.
A number divided by 6. Is that the only thing I could put? I had all of these things in my table. I could say the quotient of a number and 6, because I know quotient means division, right? We can word things differently to mean the exact same thing. So it's not going to be only one right answer for this. Let's look at the little more complicated ones. Let's go up to here. How am I going to do the parentheses? What do I need to put into my verbal phrase? Graham? Comma. So what do you think for parentheses 2 plus n parentheses, what would that look like as a verbal phrase? David?
2 plus a number times 4.
Order of operations, what would I do first here? Christina? There's nothing in this verbal phrase telling me there's parentheses. So order of operations, I would do number times 4 first. Is that what I'm supposed to do first? So Graham, you told me I should use a comma. Where would I put that comma? 2 plus a number, comma, times 4. So I know that 2 plus a number needs to happen first. That's going in parentheses. So those parentheses and commas make a huge difference. Does that make sense? So if you're doing multiple steps, be careful of how you're wording it. If you're not putting any commas in there, I'm going to do order of operations first. Okay? Make sure you let me know if there's supposed to be parentheses of something else to do first. Then we have our review. Any questions on today's assignment? Now, I know we have 5 minutes before we're going to switch. When are we going to correct this assignment? Claire? Monday. Tomorrow we know is a retake day. So if you don't finish today and you say, oh, I don't have any retakes I need to do for tomorrow, or I'm only doing 1 retake tomorrow and I have the whole class period, do you have to have this done tonight? No. Because we're correcting Monday. I'm checking it off on Monday. But what can happen really easily if we don't finish it today? Bradley? You forget about it. It is your responsibility. If you're saying, oh, it's not due till Monday, I'll make sure it's done by Monday. It's your responsibility to double check and make sure you have it done. Okay? Your responsibility. So, practice works for retakes tomorrow. Make sure your Khan Academy is done tonight. Math packet number 2 has to be in by tomorrow if you want the chance to be able to redo anything. And this assignment, we are correcting Monday. You have to make sure it's done by Monday. If you are watching this at home, I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like and subscribe.